When we first introduced the aggregate demand model, we talked about the downward sloping nature of the aggregate demand. Now, as we talk about monetary policy, we can further show by example why the demand curve for aggregate demand is downward sloping. So let's look at an example here where on the right side we have our aggregate demand curve, and on the left side we have the money market account. So let's start first with a point on the aggregate demand curve. So that's our point. So based on that point, this is going to be our Y1 because this is our quantity of output. And on the Y-axis is our price level measured by CPI or the GDP inflator. And so this is the price level at P1. Now let's suppose that the price level is going to increase. Go from P1 to P2. The question is, what happens to our output? Well, if the output goes here, then we would have an upward sloping aggregate demand curve. Or if the output goes there, we would have a downward sloping aggregate demand curve. So that's the question we want to ask. And we can help answer this question by looking at the market for the demand for money. So on our for our money supply right here, we have the money supply, which is fixed quantity set by the Fed. And that's why it is straight up and down. We have our money demand, which is the relationship between the interest rate and our y-axis, which is the quantity, or our x-axis rather, as the quantity of money. And that's downward sloping. As the interest rate goes down here, as the interest rate goes down, the quantity of money increases. Because as interest rates are high, consumers are willing to hold on less money and save more of it to take advantage of some of the high interest rates. But now here in this example is our price level went up from P1 to P2. And so the question is, what impact will that have on our money demand and money supply? Well, money supply doesn't change, but this is going to increase the demand for money. That because price levels are higher, is individuals are going to want to hold on to more money, which then takes the money demand curve and is going to shift that out to this point here. And that's going to raise interest rates from this point here, which is where the interest rates were, to this point here, which is where interest rates now are. So now that we have a higher interest rates, what impact will that have on our aggregate demand? Well, because of higher interest rates, there'll be less investment. And so as a result, our aggregate demand is going to decrease to Y2. And so now we get this point right here in our aggregate demand curve. And this is why our aggregate demand is going to be represented as a downward sloping curve, can be explained by the money market or the market for money as a relationship between interest rates and quantity of money. So this is an example that shows why the aggregate demand curve is downward sloping.